Hello peoples, welcome to Legion class guide for patch 7.0 at level 100. Today I'm covering the Druid class. Before I begin, I will start by saying that you should keep in mind that the class changes were made to suit a character who has obtained their artifact weapon and has reached Legion's max level of 110. So while this may not be the most accurate guide to follow at endgame, it can be a very good place to start. I'll only be going over each spec's basic abilities and how they work together. You can use this as a template upon which to build your talents. I also want to quickly apologize for a mistake in my Paladin video where I didn't immediately realize that the effects of the Crusader's Might talent were not baseline. If there's enough interest, I can start including my own personal talent choice in these videos, or do a separate set of videos based solely on talents. Alright then, starting with Guardian Druid. The abilities a Guardian Druid will use are Mangle, Thrash, Maul, Swipe, Frenzied Regeneration, Iron Fur, Mark of Ursol, Moonfire, and Growl. Guardian Druids have 3 abilities to use as active mitigation: Iron Fur, Mark of Ursol, and Frenzied Regeneration. Iron Fur increases your armor, reducing physical damage. Mark of Ursol reduces magical damage taken, and Frenzied Regeneration is a self-heal. To use these active mitigation abilities, a Guardian Druid will generate rage with Mangle, Thrash, and auto attacks. Mangle and Thrash are your 2 main sources of rage generation, so you want to use both of them as frequently as possible. While both of these abilities are on cooldown, you can use Moonfire to add a damage over time on the target and generate extra threat. If Moonfire does not need to be refreshed, instead use Swipe. Guardian Druids also have a passive ability, Gore, which gives Thrash, Swipe, and Moonfire a 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle, and cause it to generate extra rage. When this happens, be sure to use Mangle right away, because if any successive use of these abilities causes another Gore to proc, then you will be missing out on extra rage generation. Maul is used as an excess rage dump. It deals damage, thus providing you with a smaller, increased threat generation. Once you've gotten used to generating rage, you can spend it accordingly depending on the situation. Iron Fur for physical damage, Mark of Ursol for magical damage, and Frenzied Regeneration if you need to heal yourself. And that about covers the basics for Guardian Druid. Now on to Restoration. Restoration Druids will use Healing Touch, Regrowth, Nature's Cure, Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, and Efflorescence. Life Bloom and Regrowth place a heal over time on the target. When Life Bloom expires, it heals the target for a large amount. Each time Life Bloom heals, it has a chance to allow you to cast Regrowth at no cost. Swift Mend is a very large heal, but with a cooldown. This should be used in emergency situations. Wild Growth and Efflorescence are your area of effect healing abilities. Wild Growth places a heal over time on several targets. The amount healed decreases over time. Efflorescence allows you to mark an area for players to stand in, and they can be healed as long as they're standing in it. Efflorescence no longer has a cooldown as it did in Warlords of Draenor, so it can be repositioned as needed. Make sure to have Life Bloom always active on a target. This will allow you to benefit from Omen of Clarity, allowing you to cast Regrowth for free. Healing Touch and Rejuvenation can be used when you need to do a small amount of additional healing. In times where several players need to be healed, cast Wild Growth then Efflorescence. You can cast Rejuvenation to heal one target while you cast Healing Touch on another. Restoration Druids also have a passive effect that, when their direct heals critically strike, it will buff their target with Living Seed. The next time the target with Living Seed takes damage, they will be healed for a moderate amount. When Life Bloom allows you to cast Regrowth for free, cast Regrowth immediately. If not, you will miss out on extra chances for Regrowth to be cast for free once again. It's a common practice to refresh the duration on your heals over time or damage over time abilities. However, with Life Bloom, once it expires, it does heal for a large amount. Depending if your Life Bloom target needs the extra healing, refresh Life Bloom as appropriate. In situations where it's more important to heal certain targets, you can place Rejuvenation on low priority targets, and then cast Regrowth or Healing Touch on high priority targets. Now onto Feral Druids. Feral Druids will use Prowl, Rake, Shred, Ferocious Bite, Rip, Thrash, Swipe, and Tiger's Fury. Feral Druids generate combo points with certain abilities, and then they spend those combo points on other abilities. Attacking a target with Rake from stealth is a good way to deal high damage early on. Since Rake is a bleed, you want to maintain this. Be sure to refresh it before its duration ends. Rake also generates one combo point along with Shred, the main ability you will use to generate combo points. Shred deals increased damage to bleeding targets. This is why you want to maintain Rake's bleed. You will deal extra damage while generating combo points. Once you're ready to spend combo points, you can either use it on Rip or Ferocious Bite. The same rule applies for Rake, where you first want to spend your combo points on Rip, a bleed over time. Then you can go back to generating combo points with Shred and spending them with Ferocious Bite. To sum up, maintain Rake on your target, generate combo points with Shred, spend those combo points with Rip, then if Rip does not need to be refreshed, spend your combo points on Ferocious Bite. Tiger's Fury is an ability that restores 60 energy and increases the damage of all your attacks by 15% for their full duration for 8 seconds. That bit of extra text, for their full duration, is not something you would normally see on a damage buff. In case you were wondering, this applies to your bleed effects. If you activate Tiger's Fury, and then cause your target to bleed, then Tiger's Fury falls off, your bleed will still continue to deal 15% increased damage. Dealing area damage as a Feral Druid is fairly easy. Begin by casting Thrash, which damages all targets nearby and causes them to bleed over time. Then, to generate combo points, instead of Shred, you will use Swipe. Its function is nearly identical to Shred, except it deals damage to several targets and deals slightly less damage, making it more effective against multiple targets. Depending on the situation you're in, while dealing area of effect damage, you may want to spend your combo points differently. When dealing with one large main target and several smaller targets, feel free to first spend combo points on Rip on the larger target, continue your area of effect rotation, and then spending combo points on Ferocious Bite to the main target. Be sure to refresh Rip as needed. Tiger's Fury is best used when you have less than 60 energy missing. It can also be used before attacking with Ferocious Bite, because Ferocious Bite consumes extra energy to deal extra damage. And that's about it for Feral Druids. Now on to Balanced Druids. Balanced Druids, or Moonkins, will use Solar Wrath, Moonfire, Sunfire, Lunar Strike, Star Surge, and Starfall. Moonkins function differently now than they did in Warlords of Draenor. They generate astral power through abilities, and spend that astral power on Star Surge and Starfall. Moonfire and Sunfire both deal a small amount of damage on impact, and then a larger amount of damage over time. These abilities generate a small amount of astral power on impact, however it's more effective to cast Solar Wrath and Lunar Strike to generate astral power. Also, while it is effective to refresh damage over time on a target, Moonfire is more suited to a single target, and Sunfire is more suited to multiple targets. However, it is still beneficial to have 2 damage over time effects on a target than 1, so feel free to use either just one or both effects. For a single target, generate astral power using Solar Wrath, and maintaining Moonfire. Astral power can then be spent on either a single target ability or an area of effect ability. For a single target, you will want to use Star Surge. Star Surge is an instant cast spell that deals a large amount of damage and increases the damage of your next Solar Wrath and next Lunar Strike. For multiple targets, instead of Moonfire, use Sunfire, and instead of Solar Wrath, use Lunar Strike. Sunfire deals less damage over time than Moonfire, but it spreads its damage over time to nearby enemies. And similarly, Solar Wrath deals more overall damage to a single target, whereas Lunar Strike is more suited to dealing damage to multiple targets. In addition to striking its primary target, Lunar Strike also damages other nearby enemies for a small amount. As you generate astral power with Lunar Strike and maintain Sunfire, you can spend your astral power on Starfall. This deals damage to targets in an area, and all the affected targets take increased damage from your Sunfire and Moonfire effects. Moonkin plays much differently than it did in Warlords of Draenor, with some similarities still remaining. Compared to how it was before patch 7.0, I feel Moonkin is a lot easier to learn to play and to get used to. And this concludes the class guide for Druids in patch 7.0 at level 100. All of this may change slightly, or a lot, depending on your talent choice. Whichever you decide, this will be the model that you build your character upon. If you'd like to know more, have any questions, or want to request a specific class for me to go over next, you can check out the video description for a bit of extra info, or feel free to ask in the comments. If you liked this video, leave a like, and if you want to see more class guide videos or whatever else I do, feel free to subscribe. Until next time, be swell, stay well, and farewell.